I'm Simon Taylor, the CEO and founder of HYCU. HYCU stands for Hybrid Cloud Uptime, and we are now the world's fastest growing data protection as a service company, and we are incredibly excited to be here with you all again. Now, I will tell you guys, today is my 12-year-old son's birthday, Benjamin, and he was a little upset that I didn't show up for his birthday. I had to take him out last weekend. So if we could just sort of, give a round of applause for Benji to start off. I'd love to show that to him on TV later on. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I know he does as well. Yeah, I'll save you all from that. But again, thank you all for being here. And I know we've done this before. So today we have a very exciting sort of set of announcements for you. We're going to talk a lot about what HYCU has been up to. But before I do, I want to do a very brief introduction to the players that are here with us from HYCU and from our new partner, Dell. We've got myself, we've got David Noy, who is our executive sponsor at Dell. We've got Sabaya Sundaram, who runs product, Andy Fernandez, who runs product marketing, Shiva Raja, the director of product management, Satya, head of cloud products, and Don Jennings, our senior director of global comms, as well as Brian Bell, who is recently onboarded to HYCU to run the Dell partnership. This is a really, really exciting time for HYCU. I know some of you were actually in our headquarters about a year ago. Some of you, yes, I remember you, absolutely. And we had a great time talking about the world of SaaS data protection, about how cloud was changing and how the need to provide data protection to cloud and infrastructure was not enough. We talked about apps and we talked about databases. And so I'm going to give you guys a quick refresher on who HYCU is, so we sort of set the tone, and then we'll go into a whole series of new announcements as well. So today what we've got planned for you is an introduction to HYCU, for those of you who are not familiar with us, freedom of choice in hybrid and multi-cloud, a very big announcement with a new partner, protecting applications from build to run. We're going to talk about protecting AI. Now, I know you guys have had a lot of fun talking about networking with some of the other vendors. We're here to talk about the importance of artificial intelligence when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to data protection, and when it comes to the rest of technology. We hear a lot about the apps and the databases that are running AI, but what about the cybersecurity elements? What about the data protection elements? We're going to talk about that today, and then we're going to do a summary and a Q&A. As always, I know this is not a shy crowd. If you've got questions, feel free to throw them out at us, and we'll do our absolute best to answer them for you. So as I said before, HYCU, Hybrid Cloud Uptime, pronounced haiku like the poem. Where did we come up with the name? We thought about a haiku poem as something that means taking all the data in a language and boiling it down to 3 simple lines. The vision for our business is to be the leading provider of simple, scalable, and secure multi-cloud SaaS data protection solutions. But SaaS in our case is a little bit of a misnomer, because what we're really talking about is applications as a services, database as a service. Not just things that are on premises, but also things that are in the cloud, also things that are in SaaS. How do you provide one ring to rule them all? How do you provide a true data protection platform that is designed for the modern data estate? And so our mission, and we really, really feel strongly about this, is to build a safer world through universal protection of data. The idea that you're going to have 30 or 40 different data protection companies doesn't really make sense to us. You need the big guys like a Dell, and you need somebody who's got end-to-end comprehensive coverage like a HYCU. But what you don't need is a different backup company for every single app and for every single database. And so our entire theme today is going to be about how we bring all this together so we protect our customers better. And it's interesting, this building a safer world. I actually thought, gosh, will our own engineers accept this? Is this too kind of high-minded? Does it sound like a sales pitch? The way engineers are. And they looked at it and they said, you know what? We feel proud to come into work every day because we see the problems that we're solving. And so we've kept this as our mission because it is what our engineering team feels the most passionate about. And that in turn makes me very proud. So globally recognized and trusted, today HYCU has over 4,600 companies protected in 78 countries and over 450 channel partners. So while we may not be the biggest brand in the world, we are certainly providing the most coverage in the world to an enormous number of countries and companies around the globe. Industry-leading experience, analyst recognition. It's interesting. For a long time, we have talked primarily about our 91 NPS score. We're super proud of the fact that our customers like us. They want to come back to us. They want to buy more from us. That's great. What's happened in the last year and 2 years is we started to see a lot of other folks come to the table. We became a visionary in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, which was really exciting for us. Then Google named us as the partner of the year for backup and recovery. I mean, this was a really exciting moment for HYCU because all of a sudden the market sort of said, wait a second, this is Google's #1 partner for data protection. We need to take a look at these guys. And then last, GigaOM as well, named a leader in the Cloud Native Data Protection Radar report. So HYCU is really on a fast and furious journey, and we're very proud of sort of where we've gone. And as many of you already know, we are trusted by some of the world's most, let's call it, important organizations, whether you're talking about the United States federal government, whether you're talking about the Department of Defense, or even Fortune 500 companies. You know, the trick to HYCU in terms of understanding what we actually do is to think about HYCU in terms of coverage. When you think about backup and recovery or data protection in general, and I know I'm speaking to the choir a little bit here, but you really talk about it in terms of sources and targets. And so, there were companies that came out, 30, 40 years ago that said, we're going to be the best in the world at backing up and recovering Unix. There was companies that came out and said, we're going to be the best in the world at backing up Windows. Somebody that came out and said, we're going to be the best in the world at backing up VMware. And then, what really HYCU did is we took a step back and said, when you think about the number of sources and how it's increased over time, the world has truly changed since that, the period 30 or 40 years ago when people really just cared about one source. Because people don't keep their data in one source anymore, do they? They keep their data in on-prem, they keep it in public cloud, they keep it in SaaS. The average mid-market company today keeps their data in no less than 212 different sources. So let that sink in for a moment. So, I mentioned my 12-year-old son, Benji. He asked me what HYCU actually does. And I said, on the iPhone, you've got apps, right? I said, what happens when you delete something by mistake? He says, you go to iCloud Backup and you just hit the button. And I said, that doesn't exist for companies. And he said, well, why not, Dad? And I said, well, that's what HYCU's here to fix, right? We're trying to make it a sort of unilateral platform that will allow you to protect data no matter where it resides. And we really think this is the challenge of the century when it comes to data. So you look here, the average the average data protection company today, and in fact, if you add up the aggregate of all the data protection companies in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, they only protect less than 10 SaaS services. There's 30,000 SaaS services in the world, and they protect an aggregate of 10. Not if you add them all, in aggregate, 10. HYCU now protects over 80. And the way we do it is we protect your hybrid cloud infrastructure, we protect your modern cloud apps and services, and we protect your modern cloud apps and services as well. So we're talking about everything from a BigQuery, a Cloud SQL, to a Jira, to a Confluence, to a Salesforce, and everything in between, through one platform that is easy to use, that can be either downloaded behind the firewall for protection or used as a true SaaS service. And that's why we've got 4,600 customers. It's because we understood something that I think a lot of people missed, which was that data was going to end up in such an exponential number of sources, we needed to protect as many as possible. Let me pause there. Any questions? I know I've been talking quite a bit already. Does it all make sense? I know a lot of you have heard this before.
So I'm new to this. How long ago were you founded, and how have you grown as far as adding capabilities and acquisitions, et cetera?
What a beautiful question. I could be here all day. Someone's going to grab the hook if I talk too long, but I'll tell you this. We were founded in 2018. I'd sold my previous company to Citrix, which is right across the street, actually. I remember walking over there with Mark Templeton and having some great conversations with him and Al Montserrat back in the day. We announced at Citrix Synergy the acquisition. And I had left the hall, and I was in one of the bars there in Vegas, and I bumped into Goran Gorevsky, who is now our CTO and my co-founder. And what Goran and I talked about was the world of data protection. And what he really explained to me at the time, I was not a data protection expert. He said to me, Simon, the challenge is nobody has consumerized data protection. It is really difficult to use. It takes a lot of time. There's a lot of professional services. It's just not simple. And I said, why isn't it simple? And he said, well, the equivalency problem. It takes an equal amount of time to build each individual data source. So if you want to back up VMware and recover VMware well, it might take you a year, maybe 10 years to get it completely right. But then you add something like a Google right? And you add one app, one database, it takes an equivalent level of time. And I said, so if we can solve the equivalency problem, we have something. We've really got something. So this led us on a journey to building what we call HYCU R Cloud, which is our platform, letter R dash cloud. And what we effectively did is we went out, we gathered some seed funding. We built a sort of a simple integration that allowed you to back up Nutanix first, then Google Cloud, then VMware, and then Office 365, I believe it was. And we sort of up-leveled all the data under a single pane of glass through an abstraction layer and made it really easy to migrate data between clouds and did some really great things.
So R is recovery?
R is resiliency.
Oh, resiliency, okay.
And what happened is COVID hit. We had gotten a couple hundred customers, things were going really well. COVID hit, and all of a sudden people realized HYCU was super easy to use. And so we grew 450% because people were using HYCU to migrate their data from on-prem to the cloud and back again without having to go to the office because it was so simple. After that, we raised $140 million from Bain Capital and Acrew. Enrique Salem, who some of you may remember from Symantec days, joined us as the chairman of our board. And away we went. And that's sort of how we grew over the last sort of 5 to 6 years.
Okay, so mostly it's organic growth then.
100%.
Okay.
No acquisitions whatsoever.
Okay.
And you mentioned your channel partners as well. Are you guys 100% channel?
We are.
Yep.
We're 100% channel. We are absolutely 100% channel. And what I want to do now, just really quickly, is just walk you through what our platform really is. This is a great segue, actually. Data protection for the entire data estate. What we realized is backing up and recovering data the backing up part's really easy. The recovery part's quite difficult, but you also need to make it simple for customers. How do you make it simple when customers have their data in hundreds of different places? Well, what we envisioned was what we now call RGraph, which is an auto-discovery tool that allows you to visualize where all your data is across on-prem, public cloud, and SaaS. It breaks it out by department. It tells you what's backed up, what's not, and whether or not each of your services is in compliance. This may sound like a really simple thing, but I'll give you a real life example. The Boston Red Sox are a big customer of HYCU, and they ran RGraph thinking that they had about 12, maybe 15 different SaaS services. They had 967. 967. They had a SaaS service just to record pitches, right? Just for the pitch. Another one for hitting, for batting. I mean, every single action that takes place on that field, is a different SaaS service, and none of that data was protected until HYCU. I wrote a book about this called "Averting the SaaS Data Apocalypse," and the Red Sox contributed an entire chapter to this because it was so powerful for them to be able to understand and visualize where all that data was and make it easy to use. The second is we protect all the workloads with secure, bulletproof backups. We make it easy to recover the data. We're not talking about recovering to an Excel file. We recover to the actual application or database it originated in. And finally, we'll move your workloads anytime and anywhere. So the R Cloud platform has shown itself to be incredibly powerful. It's incredibly versatile. And I think most importantly, it's got that total coverage, and it keeps getting better. One of the things you may remember from our last session, for those who were there, we created a partnership with Anthropic to make it easier than ever before to add those integrations. Remember what I said about, when we first founded the company, the idea was to make it easy to gain equivalency across on-prem, public cloud, and SaaS. Well, we partnered with Anthropic to build those integrations and those modules, and that's why we've got 86 different integrations compared to our nearest competitor who's got 5. All right, and now this is something that our director of product marketing, Andy Fernandez, came up with. I love this. It's sort of a periodic table of backup. And the idea here is to look at all the data protection in the world. Where do you actually need to protect your data? I think when we think about data protection, a lot of us, our minds go to the server. Our minds go to, sort of the regular workloads. I think more recently, people talk about Office 365, right? But data protection is required everywhere across the modern data estate. So when we think about infrastructure, okay, we know that. We know we need to back up, our hypervisors. But we also need to back up our DevOps and our ITSM. What about GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket? I'm always amazed when I talk to folks and I say, so you're a software company? Yes. And all your source code is in that one repository? Yes. Do you back it up? No. Oh, would you like to? I never really thought about it before. right? And this is the problem. It's the awareness. If there's one thing we really care about at HYCU, it's making people aware of this problem. Your jewels, right? Your most valued treasure is your data. We're here to protect it. You know, one of the things that we talked about recently, ML and AI and DBaaS, right? Everyone is talking about artificial intelligence. Everyone's talking about the data lake, or now the lake house, right? You're familiar with these terms. You're hearing this all the time. Nobody's talking about backing it up. What happens when it goes away? What happens when you accidentally hit delete? You know, some of the things we're going to show you today with our new partner, Dell, are how we're actually protecting that and making it better and easier.